country and across the world. This is Weekend Express, a program that looks at major headlines around the globe. I'm Colin Sonyonyi in Nairobi, and first, a look at our major stories. Officials in South Korea have started the process of closing down the largest dog meat slaughterhouse in the country. The Taepyeongdong complex in Seonam City will be cleared in 2 days and converted into a public park. About 1 million dogs are consumed every year, and activists have sought to end the custom. A boarding school for disadvantaged children in remote forest area of Brazil has won this year's award for the world's best new building. The Children Village Dormitory Complex, which provides accommodation for 450 children, received the International Riba Award for Excellence this week. It is based on a farm surrounded by dense rainforest in Tocantins State in Brazil. And finally, millions of children in England are set to begin a new tough curriculum. 5 years old will learn fractions and computer coding, while those in early secondary will have to study at least 5 Shakespeare plays. The Department of Education in England says changes in curriculum is aimed at preparing children for life in modern Britain. The change in curriculum in England brings us to our discussion of the day. Is the Kenyan curriculum, and in this case, the university curriculum in Kenya, in any way helping the students? Is it in any way shaping students and enabling them to be innovators and job creators, or it needs some sort of review? That, of course, shapes our discussion of the day. The latest figures from the United Nations Human Developmental Report shows that 1 in 5 Kenyans between the ages of 15 to 34 is unemployed, a much higher rate than any other country in the region. Go to school and get a job, as the society has always pontificated, is no longer a formula that works. The youth in Kenya are facing a different reality. Many are yet to secure a substantive job since they graduated from universities. Some have opted going back for a second degree, and this does not provide the magic formula for getting into the world of formal employment. Thousands graduate from Kenyan University annually, and thousands also remain unemployed after graduation. So the question is the Kenyan university curriculum to blame, or the students are just afraid of being innovative and job creators? That is the question of the day. Salim Mwende says our university curriculum is one that values memorization and punishes creativity. That explains the high level of unemployment in the country. Grace Awiti on Twitter says we need more practical courses in our institutions like welding. We can't all be employed in white-collar jobs. Remember, you can also share the discussion by tweeting us at Weekend Express using the hashtag University Curriculum in Kenya. And now let's take a look at what students from different universities have to say in regards to the university curriculum in Kenya and whether it needs a review. Take a look.
I think we need a review of university curriculum in Kenya so that we can produce more innovative, independent thinkers and create more opportunities for others.
In my view, I think this system enables you to actually withstand the pressure in the job place, keeping in mind that you have the skills that are required.
I think with course content, the curriculum is okay, but with globalization and having more diverse knowledge coming from outside, we need to change and integrate what is happening all over the world into our curriculum so that you can be able to compete.
And my opinion about the curriculum that universities have is that it needs a lot of work. It needs to be changed a lot because we do a lot of general courses that aren't really that helpful. I mean, they are helpful to some extent, but having 3/4 of the hours of your coursework being general, that doesn't really make much sense.
You find that most people don't really have the skills that are needed, the hands-on skills. They have the knowledge which they can't really apply in the job market, or sometimes it doesn't really match. The knowledge that they have doesn't match what the employers are looking for, so that you find that people lack jobs despite the fact that they are trained, they have even degrees or diplomas, whatever the level of education, but they actually don't really have the skills that are needed. So I think universities should make the curriculum more hands-on, more skills-oriented rather than just knowledge, which is the case in my opinion.
So let me bring in our correspondent, Anthony Baki. Anthony Baki, of course, you've been speaking to the university students. What is the general assessment on the university curriculum in Kenya? What are they saying? Anthony?
Thank you very much, Collins. I think from the students who got to interview today pertaining the curriculum of universities, there were those that were of the idea that the university's curriculum should be reviewed because it is based on theory rather than practical, and therefore that denies them the chance of at least getting to be innovative and creative, thus creating employments for themselves. While there are those that were of the idea that the curriculum is very good, that it is only that the students are not willing to do extra effort in a way to create a niche for themselves. So what I think is still going on, that the review of the university curriculum is still a debate that is ongoing. So back to you, Collins.
All right, thank you so much, Anthony. We appreciate it. Thank you. So allow me to introduce my panel. I have Mr. Cleophas Mbugua. Mr. Cleophas Mbugua is a senior lecturer at Daystar University. I also have Willis Njoroge. Willis Njoroge is a scholar and a commentator on matters education. And lastly, I have Brian Odea. Brian Odea is a fourth-year student at Daystar University. Let me start with you, Brian. Of course, you're a fourth-year student at Daystar University. You're just about to graduate. You've been through the university curriculum. Are you confident? Are you confident that the university curriculum in Kenya prepares the student for the modern world life challenges, or it needs some sort of review? Brian?
Thank you, Collins, for having me here today. And what I think about the kind of university curriculum we have is that it's quite watery and shaky. It stands on very moist ground, and the reason as to why I choose to say that is because several institutions have taken up the responsibility of shaping their curriculum based on how they see things. We have institutions such as USIU, United States University of Africa. What they do, usually they have a very practical approach as to how they look into things. Good example at USIU is the USIU radio. It's a clear-cut competition. You cannot distinguish between USIU radio and popular radio stations around Nairobi like Kiss 100. So I do think the university curriculum needs to be altered, not completely scrapped. It needs to be altered in the sense that it ensures practicality, because in days like these you find a student who just goes through the channel and the systems, but when you get them to the actual practicality of it, they have nothing to offer, especially when it comes to professions where you have to perform, like medicine, media. You cannot tell a PR student that you're supposed to create an event while you're teaching them how to create an event. You will never give them an assignment or an exam to actually come up with an actual event that can be graded and assessed. So it does need some reforms here and there, but it doesn't need to be completely scraped off, because if we do that, then we risk having what is going to take place for the primary school education kids. They're going to have the whole 844 scrapped off. 844 is not entirely as bad, but it needs some improvement. On my conclusion, I will conclude by quoting Dr. Wandia Njoya on the issue of education. She says that let us not progress for the sake of progress so that we gain some form of mileage, be it political or social forms of mileage. Let's look at the issue. If there is something we can improve on, we improve on that one agenda, as opposed to coming up with a new whole platter and start creating something from scratch, given the fact that it needs time and it's being hurried. So it does need reforms, but it needs careful precision and careful forms of implementations to make sure that it doesn't all crumble towards the end. As I always say, if the center doesn't hold, things fall apart. Thank you very much for having me, Collins. Back to you.
Let me bring in Mr. Willis Njoroge. Mr. Njoroge, of course, you're a commentator on educational matters. You have great interest in education in Kenya, and you understand the Kenyan curriculum very well, and particularly in this case, the university curriculum in Kenya. in your own assessment, in your own evaluation, do you think the university curriculum in Kenya needs some sort of review, or it's okay as it is?
Thank you, Collins, for having me. I think with the education system, there's a huge reviewing is recommended, because we have changing trends in the world, and also dynamics culturally and also scientifically. It needs to be reviewed. But the other thing is that we also need to change our approach, for it not to be lecturer centered to students centered, because just like 844, we have different high schools that apply different approaches using the same curriculum. Some perform very well, others actually produce students that are not proactive and who cannot preside over issues in our society. And yet you find institutions like Starehe Boys Center by former director Dr. Griffiths. He did a very good job in his approach. It was student-centered. And as a result of that, if they joke about it, they say if you want work done, go to Starehe, and if you need a boss, go to another institution. So I think review is very good, but I also think that we need to change our approach, not necessarily our curriculum. Thank you.
Let me bring in Mr. Cleophas Mbugua. Mr. Mbugua, you have been a lecturer for a long time now. What is your evaluation on the university curriculum in Kenya? What's your assessment and evaluation on the university curriculum in Kenya?
Thank you, Collins, for this interview. First, I want to say that the issue of universities in Kenya and curriculum is a topic which has attracted very many scholars. And certain universities have even conducted conferences. I remember one such university was Yale University. But it has been noticed that for some time, the universities, what the universities have offered to students did not always lead to acceptance in the job market. But I think there is room for improvement, because universities are now talking to the markets.
Mr. Mbugua, it has been reported that thousands of students remain unemployed, even up to 7 years after graduation. And this leads us to the question, is this curriculum helping students to be innovators and job creators? Or this curriculum needs some sort of review?
I think we should not portion blame to the universities, because universities provide a service, and the service is in the form of a service and a product in the form of education. But the job market is a different setting, so we should not apportion the blame to the universities. We should actually think of how the university and the government, international players can come together so that we don't have many people graduating and they don't have a job. Also, education at the university should be seen as an investment. Therefore, it will be much better if programs were tailored in such a way that every graduate gets a job. And in case they are not absorbed in the job market, they can be given additional training in the form of entrepreneurship, so that they become job creators instead of job seekers. I think that may be a more inclusive approach.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Cleophas Mbugua. Thank you, Mr. Willis Njoroge. Thank you, Brian Odera. Thank you so much. You all, we appreciate. Thank you. For a long time, grades have mattered more than anything else in Kenya's educational system, all the way from primary school to university level. And what it simply means is that students are left with more pressure to cram for the sake of the exams. And this simply means that students are left with no ability or less ability to be creative, innovative, and job creators. If we can have a curriculum that will be focused on the development of a student's talents and abilities, this for sure will be a step towards the right direction. And in my view, and in my own judgment, and in my own assessment, indeed, the Kenyan curriculum needs a review so that we can have a curriculum that is focused on the development of students and not exam focused. And that is my take. Remember, the conversation goes on at Weekend Express using the hashtag University Curriculum in Kenya. I'm Collins Onyonyi in Nairobi. Remember to subscribe on our YouTube channel to stay connected. Bye-bye.